You know how some things are just meant to be and they just happen and you say, well, that was meant to be. Well, that's exactly the case when it comes to Darwin, the 110 by Helderburg. I built this for a gentleman in New Mexico and he called up and he said, Paul, absolutely love the build you did named Byzek. And I would like to have one just like it pretty much because I classify that one to be clean and mean. Well, this is Darwin by Helderburg. So allow me to elaborate a little bit on how this all came to be. So we built Byzek. If you've not seen Byzek, you should definitely check that video out because I am in an overcoat. It's winter time. I am in New York. It's cold, it's breezy, and I am talking about Byzek, which was a dream that I had that I said, you know, I should create something very streamlined, very clean after a long night of watching a lot of James Bond movies. And I said, this would be probably the James Bond or the villain vehicle, depending on which way you wanted to go. And I talked about how the inspiration was not to do the roll cage and really streamline it, make it very clean. Hence, that's what Mike called. And he said, I want to clean and mean like Byzek. And I was like, oh, that's just magical because it always seems that I've been very fortunate in my life and that it just seems like everything lines up in a wonderful way and I meet some really wonderful people along the way. And I said, well, that's perfect, Mike, because in fact, I am doing another recreation with some subtle changes over Byzek because Byzek was crazy popular. Byzek received millions of views. And again, if you've not seen it, just Google Helderburg Byzek, B-Y-Z-E-K, and you will see what I mean. It actually has its own search algorithm now that Google has seen thousands and thousands of people searching Helderburg Byzek, that it's one of the suggested searches whenever you're searching for Helderburg or classic Land Rover Defender. So I felt it was very fitting to recreate it. And just starting with the color. The color is astonishing. It's fabulous. And that you have to ask, is it blue or is it gray? And the truth be told, it's both. It's a blue, but it's a gray. And depending on the light, like right now I'm in the sunshine, beautiful blue sky under these green trees, and it probably looks a lot like blue on the video. And I've said this many a times too, that you really need to see a Helderburg in person because the colors and the detail and the depth, it just simply can't be seen when it comes to a photograph or a video, you know, seeing it online. You really have to see it in person. And not just the perfection of the paint, but the deepness of the paint and just feeling the paint. And when we go to the shows, people love to always feel the paint and tap on it. And I'm like, oh, but anyway. But just to see it and the perfect lines, how everything is lined up perfectly and all the sound deadening that goes into a Helderburg and the stance, it really is something you have to see in person. And it is the ideal Instagrammable moment vehicle that is rarely seen. So color, you can see that. I don't need to go into it. One change that I did do over Byzek on this one, and that is the roof. Byzek was all the Arctic gray. This one, Darwin, I did the black roof, the contrast, because oftentimes what I'll do is I will just sit in the garage and just look at the builds that we've done or look at the builds that we're getting ready to do and just visualize what is it going to look like when it's done. And then after it's done, I am sitting there saying, what can we do to make it even better? So visualization is really important to me. And I just felt like Byzek was perfect, but I needed to take it one more one more or two more levels up, and that's exactly what we've done. Another little subtle change that I did that was different was the grill. I wanted to change the grill out a little bit, so I did the barbecue style grill versus Byzek has the German metal grill. This is metal also. And then we did the Land Rover cast badge right here too. And it's really a mix between the classic, iconic look and the modernizing it. So if you look at the bonnet's more of a modern design. The headlight with the broken beams, which are signature Helderburg, is more of a modern. The billet aluminum, the LED lighting here, the bumper, all modern touches. But then boom, here's the cast Land Rover badge to kind of pull that iconic flavor into it. The bumper, I do love our bumpers. This is our bumper. We build these bumpers, and we have a new one on the way out that you'll be seeing very soon that is really, it's very similar, just one little subtle change on it. But moving, if you just look at the lines, all the lines are perfect. We'll have the wider arches, have the billet aluminum vents, the billet aluminum windshield brackets, and sometimes people notice this, but let's see if you notice this. If you look under the windscreen, you'll see the two vents, which are very iconic, and later on in Land Rover's history, they started sealing those up. They left the indentations, and they even sold a kit for people to seal that up. But I choose to keep it. We rework it. It's all new cables, new hinging, everything's new, new seals. But it's just so refreshing in a day like today where it's not hot. It's just a beautiful day. And you open these flaps up and you get the fresh air coming into the cabin. And that's what it really is about. Slowing down, enjoying life, and noticing more of nature. And that's just one more touch to be able to do that. Moving down, the billet aluminum hinges that are milled. These are hand milled. The wider wheels with the proper offset to get them away from everything so there's no rubbing, but it also gives it the stance too. And there is no wheel spacers. We don't do wheel spacers. We do it in the wheels. We do it proper. Has approximately a 2 3/4 inch lift with the proper prop shafts, the radius arms, longer brake lines. So everything is set up properly. Moving back, we did a little different with the door handles. These are aluminum, but I put a little touch of the silver button, so we changed that out. And again, I mean, if you've watched my videos, you know I really enjoy watches and the craftsmanship behind a handmade watch. So I've tried to take some of those design cues and add that into the design of a Helderburg. Moving down, we didn't do the arches, or not the arches, the actual rock sliders. So we kept the body panels here versus doing a rock slider, which you could see. Go to helderburg.com and search for Churchill, the 130. So under the 130, look for Churchill, or even Dragon under the 130s. And you'll see what I mean about the rock slider that's under here. That's a black tubular, or not tube, but rectangular piece of aluminum. And then of course the step-up bars. Very traditional of what we do. We also do offer the step, the single step that folds down at both doors, but just taking it all in. One of the things that Mike asked for is, he said, could I have sliding rear cargo windows? And I was like, yeah, absolutely, you can have that. But normally what we do is we do a single pane glass, because it really is more energy efficient. It keeps it cooler in the cabin in the summer and warmer in the cabin in the winter. It's just more energy efficient. But he wanted something to be able to slide back, and for his passengers, his grandkids, to get that outdoor experience, and maybe even for the dog. So on that. Moving on down, and you'll just see the rivets. We keep the rivets. We don't paint those. And the reason being is we're showing that a Helderburg is completely disassembled. Every seal, every wire, every body part, every panel, everything comes off. We go down to a bare frame, and then we start building with the frame upwards. So the frame is the original frame, but it's been completely stripped and blasted and then powder coated and then built up with modern components. Progressive coil springs, modernized shocks, and it gives it that very nice ride. So to tell you how it drives, is it drives better than a modern day Jeep. It drives better than a G-Wagon, is what clients tell me. And this one is a turbo diesel 5-speed manual. And it just, it feels very planted, but it feels peppy too. And the steering is precise, and the shifting has a short shift, so it's very precise. Braking is four-wheel disc all the way around, and braking is good. It's an enjoy. It's just such joy to drive. So I think that's enough of me talking about the exterior, because you can look at the exterior, and again, the modifications that I made on Darwin versus Byzek, just to change it up a little bit, would be the grille and doing the black on the roof, and then the sliding rear windows, and then of course the door handles. But where the magic really started to take effect and where it really changed, and I'm really excited because this is definitely not a way would be my norm. And so I was challenged and said, all right, let's do something different. But when we get in the interior, you'll see what I mean, that this would not be my norm. And the interior is something that you definitely need to see. And as I've said many a times, that you really can't see the true beauty and the artistry that goes into a Helderburg unless you see it in person. And that's why I encourage you to come out to any of the events. Just go to helderburg.com and look under the events tab and see where we're going to be. Throughout the year, we're in a handful of different places, but of course you can always come visit us in Northwest Arkansas. But let's go to the interior and let me share the magic behind that. So now we're in the interior of Darwin, and as I said, did a lot of different things when it came to Darwin versus Byzek. Byzek had a two-tone interior where I did a beige, like a biscuit, and a black. This one, I said, okay, this is going to be even more James Bond villain. James Bond could even drive it himself. So the interior is almost a black, but you'll see the stitching right here where I pulled in the blue stitching, blue-gray stitching to match the exterior, but kept everything really simplified it a lot. And instead of creating that pop or that visual appeal by doing a two-tone interior, I did it through textures. And what I mean by that, again, you'll see the blue striping here. There is no diamond stitch in Darwin at all. Instead, there's a fluting pattern. And so kept the door cards very clean, billet aluminum, of course, as you would expect. It does have focal audio. We're not complete with the audio yet, so you're not going to see the big 11-inch Alpine screen that's up here or the badge with the name on it yet, because we're still in the process of this one. The seat style, also changed the seat style on this one versus Byzek. And again, you can see the differences on helderburg.com. But this is a different style seat. The Byzek seat is more of a sport-inspired seat. This one is much more of a classic Porsche style seat that you would expect to see in a Porsche really in the early to mid 80s is the design. But spent a lot of time, and I did this design prior and did this one, I believe it was for Utopia, that if you look at that one, did the interior in a brown. This one's in much more of a black gray, not quite black, a little more gray. But as you look, you'll see the fluted on the very front of the seat pan right here with just the blue stitch on the perimeter because I didn't want it to be too busy. But fluted here with a panel, and then did perforated leather. And anytime I do perforated leather, it always takes a lot longer because we are taking those original hides and then sending them out to get them perforated, which of course that does elevate the feel, the whole feel of it. It just looks nice. There is no air conditioning in these seats, but they are heated. But just looking at the seats and the pattern and the texture of it all, it just comes together nicely. Center console, I changed that up a little bit too, just because I got the measurements of Mike and I wanted a center console that's specific to his size because the seats are specific to his size. But did the perforation in the center and then just on the perimeter, the blue stitch of the center console. And then of course carried the leather on in the inside of it too, and then the Alcantara on the inside. One other little touch that we did, and again, it is going to get the big Alpine 11-inch screen with Marconi made in Italy amplifier and all the focal speakers, which already has some of them in the door right now. but we added the Marshall speaker, the Marshall that represents an old Marshall amp with the gold lettering. So we put that right here into the center dash, and then right in front of it is the heated seat switches. So just some subtle little changes. And then, of course, carrying the stitching all the way through. Steering wheel's a little different on this one also, too. This is a Modellita. I really like the company Modellita. They're an interesting company. They're a very small company, and they've been around for a really long time. This company was the company that made the steering wheels for the MGs and the Jaguars and the Aston Martins back in the day. And they were rather large years ago. Now they're very boutique, very small, and the staff there, let's just say they're artisans, and the way they became artisans is from doing their craft for a very long time. So let's move to the rear. Let's talk about the rear and what I did there, because listening to how Mike was going to use it with his grandchildren and talking about dogs, I did a couple little changes in the rear just to make it purpose-built specifically for him. So let's take a look in the back now. So for those of you that have been watching my videos for a while or have met me in person or friends, you'll know that I am the type that everything needs a place, and that everything has a purpose. And what am I really trying to say here? What I'm really trying to say is I demand neatness. I have to have neatness, and things need to be in a certain place because that's what gives me comfort. And with that said, anytime you have dogs, you know, you have other things. You have water bowls. Of course, I use the fold-up canvas water bowls. You have leashes, you have collars. And then if you have kids, it's stuff. And I can't stand to see stuff laying in the seats or laying in the floors. That stuff needs a place. So hence, every Helderburg has pockets on the back. But what I did on this one, that I've done on a couple others too, is I did the saddlebag style. And I've done saddlebag styles before where it was on the doors, but I'm not doing that anymore. It works for a soft top, but for the hard top, in my mind, it doesn't work. So here's the saddlebags with the flaps and the buckles, so you can put everything in there, close it up, and it creates that tidiness. The second row here, which is ideal when you have a dog too, because then the dog has one almost continuous seat to just lay down, especially if you have big dogs like where I have Lucy and Leo, which are Mastiffs. Then it just makes it nice for them to have one seat to lay down, versus what you see in a lot of the Helderbergs is either the 3 individual buckets or the 2 buckets with the center console, which makes it hard for your pups. And then if you have grandchildren, then you want as much seating as you can get, hence the 60-40 bench split seat. And I carried the pattern over from the front seats into the rear seats. Of course I would, because it is custom built and everything should flow and everything should go together. So again, the blue stitch on the perimeter, and then did a kind of a dark carpet. It's really a dark gray, almost black carpet, but you'll notice the subtle touch that all of the edging that has been put, this is not a vinyl edging that's on the carpet, it's leather. So we took some of this leather, we trimmed it down, we edged all the carpet, and then used the blue stitching to carry that pattern on. And then here's some other things that you probably wouldn't notice unless I pointed it out, or unless you're OCD, is if you look above me right here, and you will see this is an add-on feature, which is also on the B-pillar, but right here, this is the leather that's also on the seats. And then even the handles here are covered in leather, and then the blue stitching continues on all the way through. And then we go back to the pillar back here to where the seat belts are at, and I covered all of this in leather and carried the blue stitching throughout. And the leather goes all the way back and wraps around all the rear windows. Normally, this is all Alcantara suede. This, though, is a beautiful touch. It's a premium. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of additional hours to do this, and especially as perfect as the lines are. So it just creates just a beautiful thing. And it also, too, when people are climbing in and out, you've got the touch of leather. Normally what I do is the billet aluminum. So really it's a purpose built, and determining, how's the vehicle going to be used, and is this something that you can understand or that you appreciate and go, yeah, I do want that extra layer added into it, and I'm willing to wait for it. So 60/40 bench split, 60/40 bench seat, saddlebags, and just everything comes together nicely. So now that we're at the back of Darwin, I want to point out a few things on that. Of course, we have the accent corners that you'll see on every Helderburg that we always do. And what I'm signifying here is that the entire vehicle was disassembled and built up. And so to kind of touch on that a little bit, every nut, every bolt, every washer, every wire, everything is new on a Helderberg. The engine is completely rebuilt from the crankshaft up, new injection pump, new starter, new alternator, new turbo, new cylinder head, new pistons, new crankshaft. So you get the point. So there's enough. So let's just talk about the cosmetics and the beauty here. Well, leather door panel here. So the rear is all covered in leather, has the blue stitching carrying on. Even did the pull handle, wrapped it in leather too. I love this accent. And what I said earlier too about this is not normally an interior you would see me do, because I normally go for the browns, the tans, the whites, the creams. That for so many years I had dark interiors, so for some reason I kind of seemed to shy away, but I just felt like the dark interior with Darwin just works. It works really well. So we have the center facing benches with 4 seat belts. This gives the maximum amount of room versus the 4 buckets where everybody's knocking knees. And then I continued the saddlebags on the back on the 60/40 bench split seats. And then again, all the stitching carries on, the leather bound right here on the carpet. And this carpet's absolutely plush. It's a beautiful carpet. It's a heavy wool content, not a nylon carpet, but a wool carpet in here. And just the smell of leather as I'm standing right here, all of this leather. It's unfortunate a lot of cows had to give up their life for Darwin to come together. And so yeah, sorry. But anyway, so there we go. The bumper, it's a different style bumper. Again, this is to match the front bumper, but we took a design and we've started creating these that give these rear steps. It's deeper, so it gives you a better step for people that are getting into the back. They have a much taller step to get in and go. It's wider, it's bigger, it's deeper. It makes it easier to get in and out. And of course, a trailer hitch could be added right here. Rear cross member, decided to paint it to match the body and then just do the separation with this rear step. LED lighting, and I do want to point this out, and I'm trying to educate the world on this, that you'll see this light here and then you'll see a light on the other side. So whenever you see a classic Land Rover Defender backing up, don't run over to the guy and go, hey, you have a backup light that's out. He doesn't. It's European. You have one backup light and then you have a fog light. So I just wanted to point that out, okay? Backup camera. And what else can I tell you about it? This is your windshield washer sprayer up here. And it just kind of brings it all together. So if you have any questions, just comment in the video or comment on our Instagram, Facebook page, or just send us an email. And this is Darwin, our latest build.